welcome to another edition of the Royal Alliance UK podcast, episode 338, Beefing Up the Interior. My name's Matthew Turner alongside Anthony Fitzpatrick and Ashley Soden. How you doing, boys?
Still half asleep and in shock, but we move.
Yeah, a little tired, but it's a nice day, so, it could be worse.
It's 12 midday here, 7 a.m. Eastern time after going to bed at 5:30 in the morning. So, we haven't had too much time to reflect on this, but we are looking back at draft day one as was for this 2025 NFL draft. We're going to be going through some superlatives about these picks, then we're going to be talking about the Lions picking Tyreek Williams, and then we'll briefly talk pick by pick before getting out of here just to talk about what we have coming up for you guys later on today and in the rest of this 2025 NFL draft. We've got a fantastic day two lined up for you guys with 7 guests, including people supporting the Eagles, Bears, Ravens, Saints, Packers, Jets, and Steelers, along with Oliver Hodgkinson, who is a writer who is British for Pro Football Network. So it should be an incredible show. That starts at 5:30 Eastern Time. That's 10:30 p.m. UK time as we go till 5 a.m. for the second day in a row. Right, boys, before we get into pick by pick and the Lions pick itself, I want to get into some superlatives, and the 4 that I've come up with are biggest reach, best value, best pick, and worst pick. Obviously, reach and worst pick could be the same, and value and best pick could be the same, but they don't necessarily have to be, I don't think. They're kind of asking slightly different questions, or nuanced slightly different questions. So, questions you had at gate: who's made the biggest reach of this draft so far? Who's made the pick that maybe they just didn't have to make at that spot?
See,
And look at the board.
it's tough, with such variation of players over the draft. Like, the guy who's picked at 40 could be picked at 12, and you probably couldn't argue against it. So it's really hard to say that there's suggestive reaches here. But, I mean, for me, what immediately stands out, I guess if I'm looking towards the top, the Bears going tight end and not the consensus number, although the one I think is the number one. I still think that high is a bit from them. But I guess maybe it's just the sort of position, I guess, rather than the reach. But outside of that, it's Tyler Booker every day of the week. The Cowboys, what the hell are you doing at 12 picking a guard? And from what I've seen of the reaction of their fans, they're not happy either.
No,
Like, they're not even close to being happy. So I think that would, suggesting that is a reach would, adopt the same stance as their fans. It would back that up.
Yeah, I know me and Matt, obviously with our cheat sheet, we've ran the numbers, and there's one clear, far and away, according to consensus board, reach, and that's Jackson Dart, the Ole Miss QB. Giants, number one, trading up for him, but then picking him, so he's on our consensus board. He's the 61st overall prospect, and the Giants traded up for him to get him in the first, which I know, again, maybe QB tax and that you can ignore it a bit, which is why he wasn't my first guess when me and Matt were working it out. Well, Matt worked it out and I was trying to guess. I can see why they prefer Dart to Sanders. Obviously, according to the board, Sanders would have been the better pick, but I can see why they went for what they did. I just find it funny that, not to toot my own horn, I kind of predicted the Booker pick with the Cowboys fans, and they seem to hate it while they're going to love it if he turns out to be the next Zach Martin, and they're going to have to eat crow, just like some of us are probably going to have to eat crow about some of these other picks, because, as I'm rightly pointed out, the person picked at 40 could easily have been picked at 12. It's a crapshoot, which is perhaps why certain players went when they did.
So for me, the biggest reach, which is a player I absolutely love, which is why it's definitely not going to be my worst pick, the biggest reach is Kenneth Grant by Miami at 13. This is a guy which, in terms of projection, in terms of where a lot of the people thought he was going to go, was late day one, early day two. And then there was some fire for a while that he maybe could have gone higher than Mason Graham, which seemed insane. And then that boiled down again, and he was a late day one, early day two pick again. Really felt like, he might be in play for us at 28, and he's gone 13. That feels incredibly large reach to me. I mean, Shamar Stewart as well to Cincinnati may not be a reach on the consensus board, and it may be great value for other people, but for me, it's a massive reach.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a reach, but it helped win me the first round mock draft.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
All right. On the flip side of that, what's the best value pick? So on the opposite side of the reach scale, who do you think got the best value out there? May not be the best pick, may not be the player that you like the most, but maybe the player that you thought kind of they got good value there.
I mean, the one that really stood out quickly for me was the Ravens getting Malachi Starks and pairing him with Kyle Hamilton and not even having to move to do the honor for that. I think that's not just a value I think that's a value and a fit. Like they work together as one. I think that's progressively good value there. That is, that's the one that immediately stands out. But I'll keep having a look. Ash, have you got one?
Well, yeah, I agree. Stark, especially since it'll then put Marlon and Humphrey on the outside and some packages stuck in a slot. For me, it's a combination of them getting him 2 picks below where he was supposed to go in consensus, but also with the fact that they absolutely rinsed the Jags in a trade down to get him. That combination makes Mason Graham absolutely great sort of pick in terms of stuff, because you get him let's say 2 picks below, and you pick up a first next year basically to do it. Like, I know obviously there's another guy who I think there's 2 that are pretty much tied on our consensus board in terms of value. Starks was one. The other one is one Campbell. I'll leave for Matt because it was Campbell. Yeah, because I don't want to speak on it because I'm still upset that he has fucking gone to Philadelphia. Like, of all the places, I could have accepted him going to Tampa Bay. I'll be like, yeah, great fit. It's the fact he goes to fucking Philadelphia, like how he does it again and gets G-hard. I'm like, to make the pun on the name, I'm committing holy war on the Eagles now. They're on the top of my hate list.
And the thing is, everyone's trying to say, look, he's hurt, he's injured and that, but you just know they're going to get the best out of him. Nolan Smith had like little injury, niggly worries when he came out, and that's what people were a bit, maybe I don't want on him. They've made him work. I mean, they don't necessarily need him to start day one if he is battling injuries and they want to get him back fully healthy, but it's just like, come on, man. Like that D line just it completely and utterly sucks that they've managed to get him. And then, they've 2 more picks for them today. They get themselves a decent tackle out of today. One of the riders or another edge rusher, then like we're in for a lot of bother. Other great value picks.
So for me, someone that I'm not a massive fan of, but I think could be fantastic value if he is what people think he could be, is Jalen Walker to Atlanta at 15.
Yeah.
Because everyone and his uncle thought that he was going to go 8 to Carolina. The fact that he goes almost double the number of picks after that, and Atlanta really need an edge rusher. Can Walker actually be a full-time edge? Dunno. I think he's going to fit that system well. He stays in state. I just love a lot about that pick. So that's something I really enjoy.
If it's picks you love and the fit you love, there's a few as well. But sorry, go on.
I would just say so. Best pick we'll come to in just a second. The other one for me that I think is best value, but only because I am so much higher on this player than basically anyone else, is Ted McMillan to Carolina at 8. And I know that some people will say, I'm not even sure he's a day 1 pick. I think he's a top 5 pick. I think he's one of the best receivers I've ever seen when I've been drafting people, or in this scouting process for the last 4 or 5 years. I really think that highly of him as a receiver. So the fact that he goes at 8, I think it's going to transform what Carolina can do. I think that they're going to get a real answer for their quarterback this year. They already had some wide receiver 1 traits from former Vikings receiver whose name escapes me.
Adam Thielen.
Thank you. So Thielen really kind of gave him a reliable receiver. Now that reliable receiver becomes a 2, Coker becomes a 3, and Tet opens everything else up for him. Young, is going to have everything he needs now. And if he doesn't succeed this year, then Carolina know where they are in 12 months' time. And it's a pick which achieves more than just getting something for their defense, which I think a lot of people thought they should do.
I do like the fact they're going to give Bryce a chance. Like, Bryce has shown that he deserves a chance. So at the end of the day, I do have a big soft spot for him. So the fact that they are giving him weapons, I will not be sad for, but I still do think they should have gone defense. But you know, you've got Coker, you've got Tet, you've got a very good receiving core for him there now. So see what you can do with the rest of your picks, and go from there. Some good defensive players who are still on that board who might start falling now with the QB rush that's about to come and whatnot. So
All right, let's get on to best pick. It doesn't have to be anything about reach or value or anything like that, just the one that you like the most. Who's your favorite pick of the first round?
I do love Amarian Hampton in LA. I think that is a fantastic pick by them. Although I thought it would be Kenneth Grant. Like, that man is going to eat so much in that offense. We talked about the line they've got there, what Jim Harbaugh wants, to do. He is going to get, like, he could be aiming for a Pro Bowl in his first year, potentially, if the stars align for him. I love that, and I love the player, and I'm glad that he's going somewhere where he's going to have his talents maximized, because they really will look after him and give him every chance to shine. So I think that's a tremendous one.
So which name was that? Just switched off for a second.
It was Amarian Hampton.
Yes, Hampton. Sorry, I did hear that. Yeah. Oh, he's going to be so good at LA.
I think that's a perfect fit.
I'll take the one you probably couldn't bring yourself to say. And...
Oh, please, I'm begging you.
Walter Nolan to Arizona.
Yeah.
Like, we've all said, okay, they took Darius Robertson last year, but the fact that Nolan now can sort of be in that rotation, learn from Calais Campbell, who I think is a very, very good mentor for him, because Nolan can play inside, can play sort of 3-4 and 4-3 big end as well. It's the perfect guy for sort of perfect fit for him. Plus, this is a guy, the head coach, obviously, is the guy that has worked with Carter before in the Super Bowl teams before he came over. So Fletcher Cox, it's just such a good fit for him, and it's also value because like they got him at 16, he could have easily gone up 6 and to the Raiders, and I would not have batted an eyelid. So for them to get him to go there, just a great pick from Arizona, and respect to them, because I know last year laughed him a bit, as I say, with the Darius Robinson pick, and he didn't really pan out because of the injuries, probably Josh Pascal disease for him. They've really turned the ship around with this pick so far.
Worst part was I even predicted it.
Yeah.
Just I knew what they were going to do. It's just, when someone goes around calling themselves the next Aaron Donald, and a team has had to deal with Aaron Donald for 10 years.
Exactly.
Like, we want a bit of that. We don't want to be on the receiving end of that for a change. I'm gonna, if we have got a Cardinals fan on tomorrow, I'm gonna be so pissy when they're on.
I think my favourite pick, and it's not someone I was expecting to say, is Emeka Egbuka to Tampa Bay. Just because Mike Evans is getting on in years, he's kept up this streak, but he's the wrong side of 30 now. Chris Godwin's coming off a major injury, and will he get back to his best self? And, I mean, they re-upped him, but will they do that again in 2 years' time? I think he's only on a 2-year deal. And they invested in Jalen McMillan, and they brought in Sterling Shepard, but I kind of feel like they needed to start building their options for life after Evans and Godwin. Mm-hmm. And Egbuka, top of the grit chart when it came to wide receivers, very athletic, great route runner, real twitchy guy who's going to give them something different to Evans and Godwin, but when they're gone, he'll be an answer in a completely different way. The offense will have to change when he's the primary weapon, but it gives him time to kind of settle in and not have to be the guy while they're still there. And then in year 3, when he might be the only one of the 3 left, he can bloom into the receiver that is the answer for Baker long term. It really it feels like a good match of value and just getting a terrific player that fits and a long term answer.
Yeah,
I think.
and
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, yeah, I know you said obviously he's different to Godwin. I think Godwin will be a damn good sort of mentor for him because
100%.
again, slot Z position. That's what Godwin does. So yeah, it gives him a nice little bit of insurance there. Don't have to rely as much on Jalen McMillan. Obviously, they picked last year out of Washington. It just gives them that answer, gives them security because we all saw kind of what happened when they both got hurt. Like that entire offense fell apart. Now they've got that insurance plan to sort of shore it up. At least then, if Evans gets hurt again, Godwin just isn't the same. They've still got a damn really good receiver to throw to, and gods, we like Ryan Day. How the hell did he screw up all this wide receiver talent as soon as he's only got one left? That's when he wins the Natty. Shame.
The thing with Ibuka as well, which a lot of people don't appreciate, is he's tough as nails. Like, as a receiver, he is tough as nails. I tweeted out as soon as they got him, like, he's a Tampa receiver. Like, they are all tough as nails, and you've got to have grit behind it. Like guys who come here have to. You've got to have something to you. And also, Ibuka's just, he was a high-star recruit himself, and he spent his entire career being the bridesmaid and never the bride per se. But he's always been very humble about it. He doesn't really care, and it kind of fits in with the mold of Mike Evans, who is consistently one of the greatest receivers in the NFL. And no one talks about him like that, but he never takes it as a chip on his shoulder. He just sort of gets on with it. Like it's just a mentality fit as well. These guys who don't care, they don't need to be the number one, they don't need to be the flashy centerpiece. They're hard workers, they're productive. He'll do well there. I looked through this list and I like quite a lot of the picks, to be fair. Like, in the matches, like we mentioned Mason Graham. I think that's a fantastic match there for them. I love the fact the Saints took Kelvin Banks, put him at left tackle, moved Talisi back to right tackle, let him eat there. But I think the one low key I like, and you pan this has been value, and I get that, I do get where it's coming from. But my God, the Miami Dolphins did need Kenneth Grant. You think the last few years how like the Bills, especially the Bills, have ran through that conference. You see that offensive line is just absolutely marmalizing everyone it comes up against. Like these teams in that conference have got to start getting stronger on the. They've got to start shutting the door on this rushing offense for the Bills, and you've got to put some elite defensive tackles in there to start building the foundation for that. The one thing Kenneth Grant does better than anybody is his run defense. He is going to be an absolute monster. Miami needed that. I think maybe not right away, but he's going to be the new core of that defense that tries to stop the Bills running it through everybody. And I think that will, over time, be a fantastic pick for them, even if they went a little too high for him. But there's no trade market out there, and the DTs all went early, so it's probably best that they did and didn't try to go back and do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, to build on that, it's a perfect scheme fit for him because Anthony Reaver is one of these disciples that runs the kind of scheme they run at Michigan. Plus, when you're going from Benito Jones to Kenneth Grant, that's definitely an upgrade.
A bit of an upgrade.
Well.
All right, let's flip it round to the other side. Last of the superlatives before we talk about Tyreek Williams. Worst pick in this draft so far.
Combined with the trade they did for him, James Pierce Jr. to Atlanta. I know it's a good scheme. I know it's a pretty damn good scheme fit, but what they gave up to come back up for him, it's too much. Like he's probably gonna ball out there. He's gonna probably turn to be like a perennial Pro Bowler and all this, but it's just combined with the trade. Like it's like we were all saying as soon as they did it, we're like, oh my God, they're gonna come up for Shador, aren't they? They're gonna get rid of Penix. They're gonna Shador will be happy. Well, Dion will be happy with him in Atlanta. It makes sense. And then it was another edge rusher. Like I know they need to improve the edge rush room, but they've also got other needs as well. I say QB, they might not be sold on Penix. They need receiver because I know obviously they've got Darnell Mooney and Drake London. Mooney's better as a free, as we all know. Like they could have easily taken Luther Burden and be running to the bank, but instead now they're kind of splashed next year's capital. So Penix doesn't work out this year, how are they going to replace him?
I think it's tough to see outright bad deals here. The one that I come back to, and again, I predicted them to do this, but with everyone that's on the board, why the Bengals took Shamar, and now you can use that as your draft guide in the future. Another high RAS guy, like we said, they go after the high RAS traits guys, not the production guys. It's their thing, but I think with who's there, you know, you look at it and you're like, ugh, I get what he can be and all, but I think you got better options. I
Yeah.
really do. I think that feels like a bad value one. What else is bad value?
Doesn't have to
See,
be
the thing
bad
is-
value though. It just has to be a fit you don't like, or an overdrafting of a player who was expected to go
Yeah.
there, but you like. I don't like it. So for me, the one that instantly comes to mind is Ashton Genty, and it's not that he's a bad pick, and it's not that it was a reach. It's that Vegas are not ready to have a luxury running back. Like, sorry,
they're
but
not.
like he'll win Vegas games. There's no doubt about that. And that line is good enough to kind of make it work a little bit, but when it's all said and done, him and Gino, they're going to get to the end of this project. Gino will be gone. They won't want to pay Genty, and they'll be back at square one in 4 years' time with nothing to show for it. So, what was the point?
And
It's
and
Josh
the thought
Jacobs
that
2.0.
yeah, and the thought if you were thinking, oh, hang on, I'll wait for a tackle to fall out the first round to me at the start of the second, they're all gone, my friends. Connolly's gone. You know, Josh Simmons is gone. Your best bet now is Erronte Ursary, and you can bet your bottom dollar that one of the other teams above you is probably going to take him before you're done. So, you know, you're not going to be able to adequately fill that gap at right tackle to be able to do so. I expected better from a GM who came across from the Bucs system to not go for a shiny king running back to start with. But it's Pete Carroll. He's old. He's not going to be in this for the long term. He don't want a long term build there. He's going to want to try and win now, isn't he? He's going to want to be
Yeah.
flashy. So I just, you know, you come from that. Tampa have never put that sort of a value on flashy, dynamic players before building their trenches up and doing it the right way. And what do the Raiders get done with every year? They get the pants pulled down because the trenches aren't good enough every single year, and yet they don't seem to have any urgency to fix it. So you get all these nice, flashy, dynamic playmakers in there, and you still win bugger all.
Yeah.
All right,
Just to build on that, Ursu's going 34 to Texans. We can pretty much put that like.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what I mean. You've lost your tackles now. You get past Ursary, and you're really going down into sort of development territory unless you think you can save Savanea as a tackle or something like that. But, you know, then you're down to lots of other guys. Marcus and Bo, Wyatt Milam, guys who were all projected to kick inside and not be... Your next actual one, you're looking at Cameron Williams and Ozzy Trapillo and stuff like that. It's just...
Or
I don't think people realise
Travis
the
from
fall off.
Iowa State, my guy.
The fall off at tackle in terms of readiness now and long-term development is huge. Like it just goes off a cliff.
It's gone.
Ursary is your last big hope, or Savanea if you think you can save him there. After that, you're done. Nobody.
And there's such difference in those two prospects in particular, because Savanea, I would argue, probably is a quite high floor guy. Does he make it in terms of being a really big impact player? Not sure, but like the fundamentals are there. You probably have to kick him inside, maybe. I like him at tackle, but I think most teams will see him as a guard. Incredible power, good usage of hands, pretty consistent. Whereas Ursary, big traits guy, very inconsistent. Can he put it all together? Bad footwork, but like if you can coach him, then he could be the best tackle in football. But like he might not be in the league in 5 years' time. I guess even bad tackles continue to get paid. We see that across the league. But like Ursary is just one of those where it's like you're taking a swing for the fences.
I feel the same with Maxwell to Buffalo as well. You had Trey Amos on the board. I love Maxwell Hairston. I do. I just don't see that as his, like, because you've just had the Kyrie Freeland thing there in Buffalo. You've got to be careful with it. It just feels like you've been a little too clever with that one. And Trey Amos was there, but I'm glad he's going to a good team. Hairston is that's fine, but again, fit wise, I'm just a bit.
Yeah. Well, as I bemoaned yesterday, Amos was the better scheme fit, but they want to bet on this long speed. And I know obviously they have to play Miami twice a year, so maybe that's what's influencing it. It's the fact they're going to have to defend that kind of speed, so they need that kind of speed to defend it. But yeah, just Amos, please. Imagine I'm not just saying that because that would have made it a bit, the gap between me and you in the mock predicts are a bit closer, but it's still a good fit. Like, fair play to Hairston. If the Bills are happy with like him, he's probably going to ball out. I know obviously they brought back Trey White, decent kind of mentor for him to learn the scheme from, I guess, and then take over from after the bye.
Right.
Absolutely.
Just a quick summary on the picks that have been made in the analysis versus the consensus board. As Ash mentioned, the biggest reach is Jackson Dart, but double-digit reaches included Booker to Dallas at 12, which was 19 places above his consensus board position. Donovan Jackson to Minnesota, 15 places. Kenneth Grant to Miami was 14. So was Gray Zabel to Seattle. 11 places for Kelvin Banks to the Saints, and 10 places for Maxwell Hairston to Buffalo. On the other side of the scale, 3 were double-digit value picks in Josh Simmons to Kansas City, Malachi Starks to Baltimore, and Jihad Campbell to Philadelphia. There were no 6 to 10 point place value picks, but there were plenty of them in terms of reaches, and it just goes to show the consensus board is nowhere near where the NFL is, and so of course there's more reaches because the boards are just wildly different. But, that's how that all shakes out. Let's turn our attention to the Lions pick before we go briefly for a kind of 20 to 30 second pick by pick of the entire round, and then a look ahead to day 2 before we get out of here. So the Lions at 28 stayed there and took Tyleik Williams, 6'3", 327 pounds, senior from Ohio State. He played all 4 seasons there, but took starter reps only for the last 2 seasons with 645 snaps and 586 snaps respectively. Only just topped 250 in 2022 and then less than 200 in 2021. So really a 2-year contributor. Second team All Big Ten in 2023. Third team last year. Obviously national champion Ohio State Buckeyes. Great run defender. It's interesting in his projection, boys. I was saying this to Ash before. He's projected as a 0-1 technique. But he's only played 39 snaps in his college career at nose tackle. Everything for him has come between the 2 and 5, where he played 1,174 snaps as defensive tackle and 416 snaps as a defensive end. So, boys, it's an interesting pick because he's played a lot where Aleem McNeil has played, and that's what Brad Holmes has comped him to. So, you've had a little bit of sleep to think about it. What do you think about Tyleik Williams as a player, first of all, before we talk about who else we could have gone for at that point?
Yeah. So obviously he kind of runs stuff in defensive tackle, and obviously he's got both Brad and Dan supposed to compared him to Aleem. I've got a slightly different one. Admittedly, this is kind of built off Raz because he's one of the athletic comparisons, but then you look at the guy and it actually really makes sense. So Marcel Darius, the former Buffalo and Jacksonville Jaguar nose tackle, who was the third overall pick in 2011. He 6'3", 331 pounds. Tyleik is 6'2", 334 pounds. Pretty close. Darius, over his career, was a first-team All-Pro in 2014, 2-time Pro Bowler in 2013 and 2014, made Pro Football Writers All-Rookie Team in 2011, won the Natty with Alabama in 2010 and was the championship for MVP there. Over his career, 365 tackles, 37.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 15 pass defended, and his PFF grades were pretty damn good throughout his career. So between 2013 and 2018, which is his penultimate year of his career, his PFF grade did not dip below 76. If that's the kind of guy we can get out of Tyleague a kind of stalwart at the nose tackle position for the next 5 to 10 years. It's a good pick. Obviously, I probably can speak for all of us in the fact that it probably wouldn't have been our pick, but I can see the logic behind it, and I'm feeling a lot better about it now, 8 hours after the pick was made, than I initially did. Like, I did have to kind of, if people who watch know, I turned it off because I didn't want to spoil the reaction, but I was sitting here when I saw it about 2 minutes before the pick actually was made on the TV going, what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck? But I'm feeling better about it now.
I don't know. It's going to take me a while to process this. I mean, I had us taking a D tackle in round 1, so we took a D tackle in round 1. You know, we need a spiritual successor to DJ Reader because we don't want to re-sign him next year because the money's too much. So, you know, you want to bring a guy in who's effectively going to do what he does in this system, and then hopefully Aleem's fully healthy by the end of next year, and you go on with Aleem and Tyleague into the future. So I can see absolutely why they've done this, because, you know, we are barren at D tackle after this year. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how he fits in here. Brad knows what he's doing. They'll have obviously put their time and due diligence into this, so I'm always, you know, gonna trust him for that. And people have to realize with me is I spend all year scouting college prospects, and I get too emotionally attached to them. So when my guys are sat there and we don't take them, I get upset. Doesn't mean I don't like what Brad's doing. But Donovan was sat there, and it was very disappointing we didn't take Donovan. But we'll see, because like Walter, he has been part of that whole defensive line is going to get drafted. It's been one of the better units in college football. Can you fly like a bird when you're in the NFL and you're up against much harder opposition? And we're not going to have Aleem with us for a while. So are you going to be able to fly with your own wings? We'll see. We'll see what they have in store for him as well, because, you know, it does. I do think this does maybe start predicating the fact they may change what they're doing up front, how they play. Today will be very important for that, to see whether they sort of double down on this. Now you're looking at Oladejo and Stewart and guys like that and go, right, are we going to the three-man front where you're going to have McNeil, you're going to have Tyleague as your nose in that system and do it that way potentially, and then have Levi as your other guy? Who knows? No pun intended. So yeah, I have to defer to that. I can't see I didn't really put too much work into the Ohio State D-line prospects in this draft, so I'll just defer to the guy who absolutely knows what he's doing. But it was D-line. That was the main thing. Like, I would take any D-line not called Shamar Stewart yesterday. I did say that, so I will stick as a man of my word and say fine.
I think this is going to be a really interesting pick in year 1 specifically, especially when Aleem is back. So let's fast forward to December, and we've got Aleem, Reader, Tyleague, and Levi, hopefully all fit. The number of fits we can have in that, where we can play 3 of them, I think is really, really interesting. So if we can go 3-4 and have Reader, Aleem, and Tyleague, or Reader, Aleem, and Levi, or in a pass rushing set, maybe Levi, Aleem, and Tyleague, with Aiden on the line, or as an outside linebacker alongside, I don't know, Agude would be a good fit for that, or maybe Al-Qadim, but maybe they haven't got pass rushing chops, but Ukwu, or whoever we draft, perhaps. Yeah, Davenport maybe.
But he won't be healthy for December.
Well, yes, true. But the pass rushing juice we'll have there while still maintaining the run D upside is amazing. So fast forward to December, looks like a luxury pick now, but that could be really fun. But in terms of what it provides us day 1, Aleem isn't going to be there. And Levi proved his fitness last year, but it was only 1 season. Like, let's see it again from Levi. And okay, so Levi's really the only guy in that mold who's going to be there. Wingo might rotate with him a little bit, but it's not a perfect 1-for-1. Tyleague's going to rotate with Reader, but we might see Reader and Tyleague together quite often. And, I mean, if we want to be stout against the run, ain't no one running on that. No one's running on that. And then when it's Tyleek and Levi, when you give Reader a bit of a rest as well, I think that's going to be fantastic too. When you look at Tyleek, the impact that he's managed to have at Ohio State at 2i and 3, you know, even if you want to kick him inside long term to nose, he's played the majority of his career at 2i and 3. So replacing Aleem 1-for-1, at least in the first couple of months, is going to be great. Can he hit the ground running is a really big question. But I don't see any reason why not.
I think they just need to go steady with the Aleem comps. Because Aleem is one of the highest paid D tackles in the NFL, and we picked him at 72. If you're going to set that standard for him, I expect Tyleek Williams to be better. And to have more traits and be able to be more impactful than Aleem at that. And I know hindsight, people go, well, Aleem wasn't a third-round pick, but he was a third-round pick, you know. And we all knew how great he could be, but it took Aleem time. It took Aleem till year 3, really, to fully bed into that role and be able to do that. But at the same time, you know, we're going to need Tyleek year 2. Because DJ Reader ain't going to be here next year. Gio Lopez probably ain't going to be here next year. Broderick might not be here next year.
Right.
Who knows what's going on with Mekhi Wingo? So, you know, we need him to be an integral part of the team in year 2, unless we want to be having this conversation again next year and going to free agency or whatever and buying high again. So we need that Reader contract off the books, and he needs to be the one who replaces it.
Yeah. So I've just looked up his snap counts. Reader played more than 50% of snaps in 10 of his 15 games this past season. That ain't sustainable. And obviously, we did bring in Roy Lopez from the Cardinals, who has taken starter snaps for Houston and for Arizona. But yeah, this pick, looking long term and spoiling probably a bit of the article that I'm slowly working on in the background to release on Sunday, this probably pushes the Broderick Martin off the roster completely. Unless he's slimmed down, and we're going to try doing the Aleem on him, where obviously it was between years 1 and 2. Aleem dropped 20, 30 pounds, went from nose tackle to free tech. If we're trying that with him, seeing if we could just get him to gap shoot, do it that way. Broderick ain't long for the roster, but yeah, Tyler needs to be rotating in quite heavily by the end of the year, just to keep DJ Reader healthy for the playoffs. But also, yeah, just get him that experience here. Then year 2, he's the starter at nose. Aleem's hopefully back fit. There's our starting defensive tackle duo. Hutch will probably hopefully be re-signed, and then insert hopefully round 2, 3 edge here. And there's your starting defensive line next season, and we're happy.
All right, let's start just going very quickly, pick by pick throughout the entire draft. Let's try and keep this to, 30 seconds per player, and then in 15 minutes we'll be through the entire round 1. Can briefly look ahead to round 2 in terms of people have been asking in the chat, in an ideal world, who would we like to pick? Where's Mike Green going to go? Where do we see Will Johnson going? All of that is coming. If the live chat have any more questions for round 2, get them in now. We'll address that in just a moment. But the draft started yesterday without a surprise. Tennessee going for Cam Ward, who was first overall pick apparent. Boys, what do you think quickly?
Really like it. Hopefully he works out for them, because I do kind of like the Titans a bit, not just because they've got perhaps the best throwback uniforms in the league, but I also do like Cam Ward as much as his trade at FSU. Hopefully he elevates them, because they've kind of been in QB purgatory ever since, Brian Tannehill dropped off the face of the earth, production-wise.
I will go to bat for Cam Ward like I do for Bryce Young. I want them to succeed because I really like them. So I'm glad the Titans didn't mess up on this. I just hope the Titans give him a chance to succeed there and don't just drop him in the shit right away. So if they take a nice weapon for him today, I'd like that.
At number 2, Jacksonville shocked the world. There was rumours that they might be going down initially, then rumours they might be going up. They couldn't do both and decided on going up and selling the farm to pick Travis Hunter, the athlete from Colorado.
It's hard to judge this, because obviously you've got to factor in that trade and what they gave up to get him. He will impact both sides of the ball for them. He'd be a damn good receiver too for them with Brian Thomas Jr. Give someone else other than Brian Thomas for Tilo to throw to, while also probably playing a bit of corner for them, because their corner ain't exactly the best. But yeah, you've got to factor in the fact they gave up a hell of a lot to get him. And I know obviously Gladstone comes from the Rams F them picks mentality, but it might be a bit too much even for someone like Hunter, who is a generational talent.
He is the only player in this draft who you can get away with that trade for. I know it's bad value, but if there's someone that you're going to provide bad value for, he's the only one you can legitimately get away with it. Not like the Falcons. You cannot justify that one in a month of Sundays. Travis will be, and again, I talked about the Browns needing a new culture setter there and redefine the standards. The Jags do as well. The Jags need a young, brash rookie to go in there, tell them all the standard ain't good enough. You're going to stick to my standard. I'm going to redefine it all, and that is what. So I'm looking forward to seeing. He will relish that challenge of going to Jacksonville and making them relevant for the first time in forever. So, good luck to him. The Jags did probably overpay, but again, they did it for the one player they can justify doing it for.
All right, next up, the Giants stands pat at 3 to take Penn State edge rusher Abdul Carter. And a lot of people had them as number 1 on the board overall in this draft, and the Giants managed to stay there and get him. And I mean, they already had 2 starting edges, now they have a third.
Sensible pick. Didn't overthink it. Good pick.
Yeah, 100%. Well, initially in his rookie season, played at Azeez Ojulari, third edge rusher, rush linebacker role. And then eventually when the team makes a decision on Kayvon Thibodeau, he can slot in the edge rush position proper and just carry it on. And that Giants team looks pretty scary now with them, with him, Brian Burns, Sexy Dexy, and then obviously Kayvon for now. They've actually got a pretty damn good pass rush there. Now it's just time to sort out the rest of the team.
Yeah, they just need to put it all together. New England next at 4, they stood there too. They've taken the LSU left tackle, Will Campbell. Is he a guard? Is he a tackle? Well, he's offensive lineman 1, boys.
And I was so choked up for him. Like, watching that interview was... I know people go, oh, I don't want to see my offensive lineman cry, but I think after all the scrutiny he's been through, after everyone who's questioned him and whether he can be a tackle in the NFL, and he's done nothing but be a great left tackle for one of the best programs in college football since he stepped onto the field as a true freshman. You saw the emotion come out there, and I was just like, oh my God, like, I want this guy to succeed. I really want, like, even if it's the Patriots, I hate the Patriots, but Will Campbell, I want him to see it. And then you saw Drake's post about it afterwards, like, oh my God, he's my favorite human being on the world already. And I'm just like, it's almost like the bromance you want to see come to fruition. I know Ash will as well, having Drake as his QB1. That's going to be like the love story we keep an eye on, but. Yeah, I'm so chuffed for him, man. He deserved that. Vrabel made a great pick here.
Yeah, I completely concur. And yeah, if he can keep Drake mate upright, I will say it live on the podcast here. I will go and get, the sort of Patriots throwback that's all red. That with Will Campbell on the back.
Pick number 5, Cleveland traded back with Jacksonville to 5 from 2 and ended up getting a top 5 player in Mason Graham, defensive tackle from Michigan. Might be an odd body type, but seemed to be a consensus top 5 pick, and Ant, especially you, are super high on him.
Him and Myles Garrett are going to make life really uncomfortable for the AFC North. I mean, that may be the one things the Browns have lacked is that spine in the middle. You've got Garrett there doing the work, but what makes it like you're double, triple teaming Myles Garrett, you're gonna leave, you're gonna leave Mason Graham one-on-one with a center or a guard or something like that. Well, you can kiss your quarterback goodbye if you're gonna do that. Quite frankly, they're going to be one of the most disruptive interior edge pairings in the NFL. I think it's a great decision. And I mean, hell, they're picking at what, 33 and 36 today now?
Yep.
So you really have the potential if you want to take another edge rusher. Christ, can you imagine if they take Donovan or someone like that? Donovan, Garrett, this opens up the board so much for them now. It's an A-star pick from them and the business they did for the trade as well. Like, Andrew Berry cooked, and as Brett said, that is hell is frozen over today. So God knows what else is going to happen when we can go ice skating with the big guy down there.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Like, he is an instant upgrade. I know obviously they took Michael last year in the second. There was some personal off-field stuff with him that maybe pushes him down. But then, yeah, he's an instant upgrade on him, on Shelby Harris, Sam Camargo, on Briggs. Malik Collins will probably play the DJ Reader role for them. Mason Graham is going to be there. Ali McNeil, the just absolutely disruptive free tech that will take pressure off Miles Garrett. And then, yeah, if they do take an edge rusher, probably with 36, because I think everyone in their dog knows where they're going with 33 right now. That is a very, very good way for them to start turning around this ship in the AFC North. I'm kind of jealous for them.
So at number 6, Vegas didn't get gazumped for him. The Bears didn't have the opportunity to trade up for him. Ashton Genty, running back, Boise State. I did say this was a pick I don't particularly like for Vegas in particular, but I mean, as a man, you can't deny how bloody good he is at a running back and how transcendent a talent Genty might be.
Pete Carroll gets his Marshall Lynch 2.0. Plain and simple. We know he loves to run the ball. He's able to do it now. Instant upgrade on. I know, obviously, we kind of do like Mr. Sincere McCormack on this podcast, but over him Mostert, who they brought in, over Samir White, I know is a favourite on this podcast as well. It's an instant upgrade. Makes Gino's life a bit easier. Takes a bit of pressure off him. But yeah, they still need to sort out that right tackle position. Probably still need to get another receiver because Ramel Caton starting for you on the outside, ain't it? Maybe some defensive pieces as well. It's a decent start, but yeah, it's probably when we look back at it in 3-4 years' time, we're going to be like, what were you doing? You've ruined another running back's career. This is Saquon Barkley 2.0. This is Josh Jacobs 2.0. It doesn't always work out.
You know what this smacks of? What year was it now, if I remember? 2017, sat there at number 8, a slightly incompetent franchise by the name of the Carolina Panthers took Christian McCaffrey. And Christian McCaffrey was a great running back for them, but what did they win with him? Nothing. Because they did not build that team in its trenches around him and give him an opportunity to go and win a Lombardi. And what happened to Christian McCaffrey? He got traded to a contender. Ashton Jonty, in 5 years, like Ash says, will be playing for a contender, but it will not be the Las Vegas Raiders. You don't take a running back so high when you're rebuilding. You're not even close to competing in that AFC East right now. The Chiefs are just a dynasty. The Broncos are an ascending franchise. Hell, the Chargers are going to get better under Harbaugh. Like, you got Peyton in there. You've got Harbaugh toughening them up. What are you doing? Taking a running back. Everyone will scream, 32nd worst run offense in there. There's two facets to a running game. Running backs and your offensive line. And I tell you which one's more important in that ideal. Your offensive line. The 49ers made a success of 6th round pick Isaac Guerrero last year when he was like the 4th string guy. He was still running for days. Why? Because they got an offensive line that can block for him. Sorry, Vegas, your roster building is absolutely atrocious.
There's also just great running backs coming.
Yeah.
They're like, in the deepest running back class there is, maybe ever, you've decided to take one high. It doesn't make sense from that perspective. They get a great running back in the top of the 2nd round. They really would.
In the 3rd, in the 4th.
Yeah, but I mean, they could get Travion Henderson at 37.
Yeah. They get Quinshon Judkins at 37. They get a running back 1 at 37, and you can get a running back 2 in day 3, like late day 3. You can get a new running back room.
If I remember rightly, one of their big needs was at right tackle, and that was filled for the Jets at 7 by Armand Membu, tackle Missouri, and the big ascender during this process, boys, Membu, but seems to be now a consensus top 10 player, and on the freaks list, no sacks allowed in the last 17 games. He's an interesting talent. I think Ash, you described him as Penei Sewell 2.0.
Yeah, because it's not so much that he's going to turn out to be Penei Sewell. Obviously, Penei Sewell is the best tackle in the league, but it's the kind of young, athletic right tackle taken by someone who saw us take Penei. So it's him taking his penne. Now suddenly that offensive line looks a lot more stout with him on the right tackle, Fashanu at left tackle. We've got John Simpson at left guard, Joe Tipman in at centre, and Lejavert Tucker in at right guard. That's a pretty damn good offensive line for Justin Fields to throw behind. I know obviously they're trying to suppose he got Bruce Hall on the trade block, but if they do pick up another running back, or if they do run with Braylon Allen, they could be able to block him then. That sorts out the most important position perhaps they needed to with that tackle position, because it pretty much fixes that offense. They might need to go and get another receiver because Alan Lazard and Josh Reynolds right now aren't here as starters. But the defense, Glenn will probably work his magic with that. He's got some guys coming back from injury to make it a lot easier for him. Probably going to hit corner at the top of the second just to replace Brandon Stevens. But then they're pretty much sorted. So for me, this is a home run pick. And yeah, the Raiders are going to look back in a couple of years' time like, what the fuck are we doing?
That's it. You let him walk to an AFC rival. Like, you don't have an offensive line, and you let an AFC rival fill out theirs with one of the best run blockers in this entire draft. Like, Brees Hall, whoever's going to start for the Raiders, I will bet that the Jets starting running back gets a lot more yards than Jonte this year from that alone.
All right. Next up, number 8. It's Jalen Walker, isn't it? It's Jalen Walker. Everyone thinks it's Jalen Walker. Jalen Walker's going to Carolina. No, we're going to go for Ted McMillan, one of my favourite players in this draft. Polynesian College Football Player of the Year last year. 1,319 yards, 8 touchdowns. I identified him a couple of years ago in the 2023 draft process as my only one where I went, holy shit, who is this guy? And he's continued into the process to be a top 10 player in this draft, boys. There were rumours he was going to fall, but he didn't.
Don't give him ammo. Don't buy Ash. Don't give him the satisfaction.
Oh no, I was there with him. He knows that. Like, I loved it. Like, I know Matt's comparison was like Justin Jefferson, the way they play out. For me, it was prime AJ Green in Cincinnati. This is a really good pick. I know, obviously, yeah, maybe they should have gone defense, reworked it, but you're giving Bryce Young a chance now. The offensive line isn't too bad. Damian Lewis is perhaps the weak spot at left guard, but now suddenly Tet, Xavier Legette, who obviously they traded back into the up to the first to get last year, Adam Thielen, that's a good 3. Jalen Coker is a 4. That's pretty fucking damn good. Chuba Hudd is a decent running back. They've pretty much sorted now. They can maybe hit tight end a bit later, just upgrade on Tommy Tremble. It's just, they're going to do what they did a couple of years ago now. I think for the rest of the draft, they'll just go defense, because they need to upgrade at edge. That's probably where they'll go next, because Clowney and DJ Wonnum ain't it as your starters.
Yeah, new weapon for Bryce. Not going to be upset about that. Like, good for him.
And then someone who I thought was going to fall, I was taking in mock drafts at 28 in ones that were done, published mock drafts where we were contributing. I thought he might have been there for the Lions. Instead, he's a top 10 player for the New Orleans Saints. Kelvin Banks comes off of the board here, and especially, I think you're quite high on Banks, aren't you?
I projected this pick. Yeah, I love him. I don't understand the hate towards him. This is great for the Saints. Like I say, Talishi Fuanga massively struggled at left tackle last year. Gave up 10 sacks. Like, move him back to right tackle, let him get back to where he's best, let Kelvin play at left tackle where he plays best. You've got bookend tackles now there for a good old long time. Like the Jets, Talishi's only in year 2, Banks in year 1. You get them developed. You start setting the foundations for your offensive line. And more importantly, you may as well give Spencer Rattler a chance this year, unless they're going to go someone at the top of round 2, which potentially they could still do. But give Spencer Rattler a chance. Build your team around him. It's more beneficial for you for Spencer to be good, because then you can accelerate your rebuild / whatever that you're in right now. So I think it's a great pick. I think it's a great fit. I think he will do well there, and I'm glad that he got his flowers. I always believed he was that higher pick, and yeah, good for him. Good pick by New Orleans. They didn't do the stupid thing and go for a quarterback.
Yeah, I completely agree. Sorts out that offense pretty much. So, of the question is QB. I would agree to stick Rattler there. Either he excels and suddenly you're like, okay, yeah, we've got something here, or he's shit and you're picking pretty high next year in what projects to be a better QB class than this year. So you're laughing. Basically, insert what I said about the Carolina Panthers for the rest of the draft, though. They're changing defensive schemes. They need to get some scheme fits there. So they're probably going to go defense now, which they kind of need because it's obviously age, and Cam Jordan's getting on a bit now. Demario Davis is as well. Time to inject some youth, get ready to get some rookie contracts on that defense because, yeah, you're in cap hell. So get rookies.
Next up is the Bears at 10. They stayed there despite rumours they wanted to trade up for John T. Instead, they stay on the offensive side of the ball. And Ben Johnson goes back to an in-state well that he just left in taking many people's tight end one, Colston Loveland. Maybe they needed another pass catcher after losing their tradee from the Chargers from a couple of years ago. But, I don't know, good player, but bigger needs elsewhere, potentially?
Oh, yeah, definitely bigger needs elsewhere. There was obviously I was giggling to myself because obviously with me being plugged into the internet, I saw the pick a bit early and I was like, Jesus Christ, they have not fucking done this, have they? I was giggling to myself. Like, they've everything got a plan for him, but obviously we know Ben does like his 2 tight end sets, and maybe him and Cole Kmet will basically be co-starters with Loveland probably playing sort of the big slot role, and you've got DJ Moore and Dunze on the outside. But come on, you could have taken one of the offensive tackles, even if it's take Josh Simmons and redshirt him, and then next year he takes over from Braxton Jones at left tackle. That would have been a great pick. Just take someone on the defensive side, Shamar Stewart, something like that. Instead, you go for the luxury pick, and I don't know, it might work out, but all likelihood is he's not going to live up to this. This is TJ Hawkinson 2.0. Well done, Ben, you absolute dum-dum.
Yeah, I was delighted with this. Obviously, Colston Loveland is a very good player, but you've got Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet's specifically a Lions killer, but he's only in year 2 of his big shiny new deal. He is your focal point one. I don't get why you get because Colston's going to start eating into his targets now. Now, whether they want to get rid of Cole, I don't know, but are you seriously telling me you're happy with your trenches? I mean, it's fine, but how many of these are not your guys? You look at that. Their entire interior is new this year. It's guys brought in from the building. Odabiingo bought in, Jarrett bought in, Sweat bought in. Where are your prospects? Where are your high level, guys who are going to be your future? You got Darnell Wright and Javon Dexter. That's it. That is not sustainable long term. Ben's just buying in all these high price pieces, these mercenaries, as you will. They wonder why they get their ass kicked by us every year. Because we've got our players, they've got guys looking for a payday. And you're like, come on, you had your pick of the edges. You had the pick of the defensive tackles. I know all the offensive tackles are gone by then, but you've got your pick of the guards and stuff like that. If you want to get someone in long term, go with Tyler Booker or something. Why did you not add to that? Why did you not build your trenches? Instead, you took the fancy option. You want to win now. Everything they're doing is suggesting, I want to win now. I want the fancy pass catchers. I want the big flash plays. I want all that sort of stuff, but I ain't going to sort the steel behind it. I just think they made a really, really big error here, but I'm not going to, I'm not complaining. Let the Bears bear. We're going to kick their ass again this year.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next pick up is San Francisco at 11. We talked about their issues in the interior and on the edges. We actually had a San Francisco fan on the show as they were picking Michael Williams, edge defender from Georgia, who was another player that I really liked and really enjoyed in the draft process and thought that he might be available come the Lions pick at 28. But the D lineman really came off the board early in this draft. And boys, high impact player, I think, in the run with pass rush upside.
Oh yeah, 100%. Again, this is a great pick. Salah's gonna absolutely love him on that defensive line. I know obviously the interior is still looking a bit weak, but the good news is, given the role that Mikhail played at Georgia, given that you've got Yetil Gross-Matos as your edge free as well, they've both got inside-outside versatility, so you can do some NASCAR packages with them. Obviously, wasn't the pick that me and Ant predicted. We both had them coming up with Las Vegas to 6 for Nolan or for Membu, but they stay where they are and they make a really good pick. And fair play to them. Start to rebuild that defense that has lost a lot of pieces recently. So fair play.
I want to thank Carolina because they had everybody on the board. Obviously, it's not the Georgia player we expected to come off first, but as I say, when you look at it, Mikel fits better what the 49ers do. So obviously preferential choice. I think they'll be really happy to have got him without having to trade around. His upside is tremendous. Obviously working with Nick Bosa, so that's got the potential to be good quick. But they do need a D tackle to go with it. I will say that I don't know where they're going to go with that specific part of this line, but they got a good one here.
Next up might have been, well, you did mention it, and as your reach of the day, Dallas stayed at 12 and took the guard from Alabama, Tyler Booker. No one's doubting how good he can be, but man, you feel like you could have got him maybe 15 picks later.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to make a joke. We should have seen it coming. This is the third Tyler offensive lineman they've taken in the first round over the past couple of years. 2022, Tyler Smith. 2024, Tyler Guyton. 2025, Tyler Booker. I know the Dallas Cowboys fans hate it. Yeah, they maybe could have traded back for him and then got him. But it's a really good pick. They've just lost Zach Martin. He's your Zach Martin replacement. I even predicted when we interviewed our Cowboys guest. They needed to fix that offensive line a bit, protect Dak. That will help the running game then as well. Obviously, I know they brought in Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders, who aren't the best, but as we said with the Raiders, the way you improve your run game first is you get the offensive line to block for them, then you get the back. So I know quite a lot of places hate the pick, say it's a reach. I don't mind it. Like as we were saying, this is the kind of class where the guy picked at 10 could easily be picked at 40. The same at 12. Like it's the same pool of players. Booker's a really damn good one. He could easily turn into Zach Martin. I would not be surprised at all.
I think the only thing for me is with this, it's the value for it. Obviously, you got Tyler Smith at left guard, but you just brought Robert Smith in over the Robert Jones. Sorry, the Dolphins starting guard for years, and you've invested in him and you've brought him into this team. You're probably going to play him, so I guess they will maybe sit him for a little bit and get him in there. But in terms of one, you've got 2 starting guards already, and you're going to go so high for one. I mean, I guess maybe this was thrown into disarray with all the tackles being gone. Maybe they were probably expecting a tackle to still be on that board at that point, and then they pivoted. Because, they do need offensive line. I'm not going to lie about that, but it's... it just seems weird given the amount they've invested in the guard position in free agency to then go draft one as well. Especially when they're going to want to win now, really. They're not in a position to, but you don't want to sit your draft pick at 12, trenches, at least they were smarter than some other teams were in this draft in terms of fortifying the trenches, so, you've got to give them that.
Next up's Miami at 13, and this man got drafted above a consensus player who was much more highly regarded, I think, in Derek Harmon. Kenneth Grant went to Miami at 13, and I mean, as we were discussing before, boys, so we've kind of already hashed this, but they didn't have anyone there at all. This is exactly what they needed.
Mm-hmm.
A+, knocked it out the park.
Exactly. Like any upgrade on Benito Jones is worth it, and even then, they only have between Grant and Benito, they have 3 other defensive linemen. It was needed. I know people won't like it. It's a good pick by them, and it's a perfect scheme fit with Anthony Weaver being from that Michigan Troy.
Next up is the Colts at 14. They were, mocked this player throughout the process, put it in pen. It's going to be this guy. It was Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn State. A unique prospect, boys.
You say that. I reckon they don't think that they'd have been picking tight end there, but I reckon they've got the one they probably didn't think they were going to get. I mean, they probably would have. Worst kept secret, right? Like, they've been getting mocked tight end since all the season was still on. But they needed another pass catcher for Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones or whoever it is. It's a solid pick from them, and value wise to get him, like the consensus one at 14 instead of Loveland. Yeah, it's good for them. I thought Colston would have been the better fit in Indy, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, just third, but I think I've got to add is this really vindicates my Jelani Woods take from a couple of years ago that he was absolutely crap and he will not work out. Well, look at him now. He's now tight end for them. What do you know? It does give Richardson a nice dump off option, though, and it will help in the blocking game for Taylor, perhaps get him back to his best. So it's a good pick. Perhaps, yeah, it wasn't the one they wanted. They probably wanted Loveland, but it's still a good pick. I don't mind it. It's like this sort of you be kind of pick. Everyone knew it was going to happen. It happened. So what?
At 15, Atlanta stayed in state and took Jalen Walker. I mentioned it as one of my better value picks of this draft. He's played primarily off the ball, but looks like he's going to play on the ball. Interesting player just because we've not really seen what he can do at the NFL level as compared to any of the other guys, but specifically he has not done much at the position he's projected to play in the NFL.
I mean, the Falcons going to be delighted with that. Like the better one falling to them without even having to move and use up precious, valuable resources for them. I was kind of shocked when they said this is because it feels like they're always hovering around the Georgia guys, and they said this is the first Georgia first round pick in like 35 years for them, which is crazy. But I think they will be absolutely delighted. There's someone as soon as he went past Carolina and San Francisco, I bet they're like, oh my God, do you reckon? Like, the Falcons will be low-key really happy with themselves today, and I do not blame them in the slightest.
Yeah, for this one, I like the good thing as well is, as you say, because he plays off ball, if it doesn't work at edge, well, they've got the perfect guy for him to learn under Caden Ellis, who is that kind of blitzing inside linebacker who's good against him and has some coverage, but yeah, he's mostly known as a blitzer. Perfect guy for him to learn from. So yeah, and it's an instant grade on the edge, along with the guy we'll come on to in a bit, because Leonard Floyd, Arnold Ebiketie aren't exactly the most high upside options. So now suddenly they've got some real upside on that defense.
Next up,
nearly half a decade without someone getting more than 7 sacks. They've really, really tried to hammer away at that problem here.
Next up, at 16, Arizona could have gone in lots of different directions, but ended up wanting to give Anthony Fitzpatrick a heart attack on air. Defensive tackle from Ole Miss, Walter Nolan. They've officially hit the shit list, Ant.
Yep, they're number 1 today. They are number 1. Well done, Arizona. You sit high on the top of my hate list. I hate you. I think the reason I really hate it, though, is because it's such a good fit, as we already mentioned. Like, I know he's going to be an absolute superstar there, so not only did they take the guy I love, they've just got a perfect fit. That line, Sweat, if Robinson does come through to his potential, he's got the perfect mentors. You've got 2 senior DTs in that one who've been in the NFL for ages, who are going to just show him, they're going to refine his game, they're going to make him a monster. I hate it because I love him. That's how I can describe this pick. The Cardinals knocked it out the park. And yeah, you're number 1 on my hate list, Cardinals. Enjoy it.
If anyone wants to send a Walter Nolan Cardinals jersey to the podcast, we do have a PO box. Please use it.
Next up,
just if I have to take him down with me, if you want another edge rusher, Arizona, there's one you can take in day 2, which will put it on Ash's shit list as well. You can have combined shit listery at the top here. This is
like triple dipper edge.
I'm dragging you down with me, Ash. I'm dragging you. If I lose Nolan, you lose your lot to them.
No.
So next up, Cincinnati, Texas A&M's edge defender Shamar Stewart. Not a fan of this player is this show, and it's going to be really interesting to see what he does in the league because super athletic, twitchy. He's got the traits. He displayed some of that in college, but it never really added up to any sort of production over 3 years. But clearly held back by the team and what he was asked to do at college, and so now it's just entirely projection. Can he use what he has in the way that actually will work in the NFL? It could work, it could, but it might not. But the floor's maybe pretty high as a run defender, right?
So where there's hate, there's love. Arizona are number 1 on my hate list. Cincy, I think you're number 2 on my like list behind the Steelers. No one's ever going to get above them really for me, but I love you. Thank you so much for making this pick. We said it, and we said it in the mock draft. Cincy value athletic edge rushers. The 4 of the last 6 they've picked are high value athletes who have not necessarily had not necessarily had technique and production behind them. It's all trait stuff. You can see a mile away the type of guy they go after, and they did. They stuck to form here. So, I just love the fact they took him off the board and made sure he didn't come here. So thank you, Cincy.
Yeah, just Trent Henderson needed a play partner on the other side, and yet the run defense, especially in the division where you're going up against Lamar Jackson twice and Derrick Henry twice a year, you kind of need that. But then, he's got the ability to develop some pass rushing. Also, probably pushes Miles Murphy, their first round pick a couple of years ago, down the pecking order. Now, kind of blown pick there, but hey ho. What to expect, though? This is the Bengals. They invest all their money on the offense, and then they're scrambling on defense with these kind of picks. Is what it is. Hopefully, he kind of works out to be good enough to live up to this pick. But again, this I totally projection at this point. It could be in 3 years' time. He's buried on a depth chart somewhere else.
Next up is another pick that was widely mocked before the draft, and yet Seattle don't take interior linemen in round 1 of the draft. Well, this year they do. Gray is able to Seattle, guard, center, tackle, whatever you want, out of North Dakota State. He was already ascending in the process before he went to the Senior Bowl and then really showed what he can do against the prime talent of this draft. Boys, this is a pick which, for all Chris Buffett said on our preview show where he didn't like him, I think he's going to show the world why everyone really, really does like him mostly.
Correction, you said that Seattle don't take interior offensive linemen in the first round. The rest of this panel did predict that.
No, but I wasn't saying that as me. That is what everyone else was saying. That because it's true.
Well, learn to have your own voice.
I don't have a voice. I'm the host.
You do have a voice. You do have a voice. What did we say? You draft Sam Darnold, what are you going to do? You've got to protect him. You've got some tackles in Seattle which could work. You don't really have an interior. Now you've got a guy who can fix all 3 positions for you in one, depending where you want to play him. I mean, they could now have an interior of Oluwatimi, Zabel, and Christian Haynes. A young rookie-led interior, which could be one of the best in the league in 2 or 3 years' time now. Keep Oluwatimi at center. I think he's a great center. He will be. Put Haynes at right guard. Put Zabel at left guard. Eat, sleep, repeat. I love it. They should have made that pick. It's a great pick. Well done, Seattle.
Yeah, I concur. Like the reason they get around it is because he's an offensive lineman. We'll try him at tackling camp. See if you can beat that Abe Lucas, and then they'll just instantly slide him inside to left guard, as you said. Like it's the easy option. Gives them a bit of veteran depth as well now, because that means Anthony Bradford can back up either guard positions, and Christian Haynes and Oluwatimi. That's a pretty damn good interior. They're learning right.
Next up at 19, Tampa Bay, take Emeka Egbuka. I listed it as my favourite pick of this draft so far. Wide receiver, Ohio State. They needed a long-term answer at wide receiver and maybe got the one that has the highest floor of any of these first-round wide receivers, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Perfect guys from to learn under with Chris Godwin. Good offensive scheme as well that knows how to use these kind of receivers, and a QB that will be able to throw to him quite consistently if he's healthy. It's a really damn good pick. The only downside is obviously that it means they didn't take Jihad Campbell. They were the chosen ones. They were supposed to be the ones anointed with him. Instead, they let him fall to the dark side of the Force.
Yeah. Not the pick we expected, but it's a really good fit. So, great for them.
All right, next up, number 20, Denver. It was going to be Omarion Hampton, isn't it? No, they don't go running back. They instead take the second corner off the board in Jahdae Barron from Texas.
Who's the sassy little so-and-so today? Yeah,
What?
it's gonna be a running back. Yeah, it's a corner instead. I'm just happy because my Jahdae Barron overpick came in. I mean, on the surface, you put in Jahdae Barron with Pat Surtain. That's not a bad corner pairing to have there. And when you're up against the likes of Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert and whatever the fuck the Raiders have got, that you do need a strong secondary there. I didn't have it high up on the list of needs for them, but I think that's kind of getting to he's really good value there. Specifically, I know they need weapons for Knicks and that, but the running back class is deep. There's lots of good tight ends down in the picks as well, so they can address those others later. You get a really good corner. Him, Surtain, that's going to do well.
I wasn't as high on him, as I've said a couple of times. I will make the sort of bold prediction that within a couple of years' time, he'll be their starting strong safety. But it's a good room for him to kind of enter because the pressure won't be on him. You've got Pat Surtain, who's obviously one of the best corners in the league. You've got White Lightning himself, Riley Moss, and Chris Aberson-Drain there as well in front of him. Probably slot into the nickel in front of Cad, unfortunately. But yeah, they'll give him every chance to succeed. And he's got the perfect kind of mentors to ease him in with Pat Surtain. And that it's just, yeah, I stand by my take, though, that within a couple of years, he will be that kind of Brian Branch nickel strong safety guy rather than an outside corner. But they probably will try him there and they'll learn quickly that maybe it's not the best fit for him.
Number 21, Pittsburgh. Shall I be sassy again? Will they go quarterback? No. But they do take
I never said they would. Oh, I did. Shit.
Derek Harmon, defensive tackle. Rumours he was going to fall because of injury concerns. He doesn't end up falling too far. Questionable tackle profile with a lot of missed tackles, but man, he's got a lot of juice and a lot of pass rush upside, boys.
It's such a good fit for him. Like their defensive line now, they've obviously got Cam Hayward there, who's a stalwart, perfect guy for him to learn. Keanu Benton at nose tackle, and then him at the other side. Like, I know quite a few Steelers fans are in uproar. I know some people whose like families are Steelers fans, and they were supposedly calling for Shador here, which is mad. I've tried talking them down off the ledge, it didn't work, but just such a fucking good pick. And I know obviously this just proves the point that Anthony Fitzpatrick somehow has a mind meld with their GM and knows all their picks. So who they're gonna pick next year in the first? Because I need to put a lot of money on it.
I've just seen a Steelers beat writer who said Derek Harmon said on his media interview that his mother is on life support in the hospital and he's heading over there now to tell her son just got drafted by the Steelers. That is heartbreaking.
Hell.
Christ. Sorry, I was literally just scrolling Twitter while you were saying that, and considering we're talking about him now, that's awful. And what a moment for him both ways, you know?
I think he's gone to the best place possible.
Yeah.
Because if anyone's going to help his technique, his tackling technique, all that sort of stuff, it's going to be the Steelers. They're going to unlock him. And you think Steelers need to revitalize their... Again, they're another trench team who work for the trenches. You think they made 3 picks on the offensive line last year to bolster that up, and you're going into year 2 with it. You do need to start replacing some of the older guard on there. I think Cam Hayward is getting on in age. Having Keanu Benton there, screw you, I still hate you for that pick, Steelers. And him now gives them a young, solid core to build around. And it's just going to be one of those where they'll rotate him in and out. Like the Steelers love to rotate their D linemen in and out, keep them fresh, use them in the best situations. If he's fully healthy for the start of the year, then you could see him having a serious impact in year 1 as a rotational player and then soon working his way into that team. So it's a good pick from them. So yeah, I look forward to seeing him play there. They will get the best out of him. And he'd probably be probably be an all-pro in a few years, knowing the way they do their thing there.
Next up, the beneficiaries of the Denver Broncos not going running back was the LA Chargers and Marion Hampton UNC falling to them. And boys, we loved this at the time, and thinking on it now, I think I love it even more, to be honest. This is a perfect fit.
I'm going to draft him in fantasy. Not to give my fantasy away, so I'm going to ruin his career by doing that because obviously he's going to screw me over when I draft him. So, but no, scheme fit, like in a perfect place. If you told me now he'd get 1,000 yards in his rookie year, I would not dispute that either. And again, we talk about it, the system there. Harbaugh does, he will use him a lot, but I think he'll use the pass catching nature of him as well. So yeah, love it, love everything about it.
Yeah, I know obviously this was the traditional Kenneth Grant point, but with Miami taking him way in front, they pivot to probably the top player on their board. And yeah, makes Herbert's life so much easier. And, what a good little offensive combination they've got now. Obviously, Joe Walton, Sean Slater at tackles. Presumptive better player than Amon-Ra St. Brown in Lad McConkey at slot receiver, and then Amir in Hampton at running back. It's a good little offensive combination for Herbert to play with.
Talking about offensive combination, we get to Green Bay, and Jordan Love has a new weapon. The first time since 2002, Green Bay have drafted a wide receiver in round one as Matthew Golden lands there. Interesting pick for the Packers, mainly because did they get better? I honestly don't know.
So if I said to you this is the offensive version of their Lucas Van Ness pick,
Yes.
would you agree with that? The fact that
100%.
they've gone traits here rather than necessary production. A guy who's not,
But we
who's
have
shown
Christian
in
Watson at home.
flashes. Exactly. This is the offensive version of Lucas Van Ness. I am convinced of it. He may do better, but the fact that the first receiver they go through in forever is a traits guy and a potential guy, it surprised me. I would have thought they'd have taken someone like Luther or that if they were going to go the safe route. And, because Jordan Love does need a pillow in there somewhere to throw at. And I don't know if Gold's going to be it, but hey, if they unlock the potential in him, then our secondary is going to have its work cut out. But I would back our secondary against him.
Yeah, same. I can see why they've kind of gone for him because now suddenly they're starting 3R, Jaden Reed in the slot, him at the Z, and then Dubs at the X. It's a good little trio, and then obviously you've got the depth behind it of Christian Watson, who's now pushed down to wide receiver 4, which is good news considering his concussion issues. Dontavian Wicks drops both catches and also down to wide receiver 5. McCall Hardman, who they brought in, kind of perfect guy for him to learn from. I know obviously Hardman hasn't been the best receiver in the league, but this is someone who's been on a couple of really good teams and knows how to use that speed. Maybe we can unlock that because obviously the big thing of Golden is ran the fastest 40, but he never showed on tape. It never did. It does also mean that pretty much the Green Bay Packers receiver core is basically all Z's though. So yeah, that's going to be fun to see.
At 24, Minnesota should have been trading down with the lack of picks they have, but they made their bed last year with that, and so just continued on the path. Donovan Jackson, guard, Ohio State. I mean, they've got someone to protect JJ McCarthy.
If you were to tell me that Kwesi was locked away in his office and Brian Flores was trying to break his door down saying, you better draft Jihad Campbell here, I would not surprise me. The second they made that pick, I thought, because I think Ash mentioned Campbell's name when the pick was in, I was like, oh, fuck. A system that loves to blitz more than anybody in this league with Jihad Campbell at its center. I'm like, oh my days, after what they've done with their D tackles and that, I was terrified for a moment in time. I'm surprised they went the other way. Obviously, it's a good pick for them still. Yes, you do need to protect your new franchise QB, especially with him coming off a season-ending injury. So I can still get it, but you've got 4 picks in the draft, and one of them is gone now. And yes, it's a good pick, but maybe you could have got a good guard later on as well, and yeah, and maybe you had your pick of defenders here to fit Flores' system, and you do, a lot of their draft needs a defense. So I'm relieved, let's say, that G.R. Campbell is not a Viking right now.
It was the safe pick. It protects McCarthy says suddenly their offensive line is pretty solid. Like Darryl Sort left tackle, Jackson plotting at left guard probably. Ryan Kelly would have signed from the Colts at center. Wolf Rise who'd have signed from the Colts at right guard, and then Brian O'Neill, who's a really good right tackle. That's a good offensive line. Like that's probably the best offensive line they've had there for a good while. But yeah, like I was mentioning Campbell because I was scared because what a perfect scheme fit he would have been in that. Like as much as I hate the Vikings, I do really like Brian Flores and what he does with defenses. I love some of the players I had there. That would have made it even more of a sort of hate watch for me in a way. But yeah, like it's the safe pick. Everyone agrees. I agree. They should have traded down. Like you could have easily got Jackson the early second, but obviously they weren't the team that chose to trade down into the early second, were they?
The Eagles were trying to trade up for Jihad at that point. I mean,
yeah.
What do you think Howie was thinking? Just like, oh, like I'm getting to the conclusion now that Howie Roseman is not a good GM. He's just a fucking lucky one.
Yeah.
Like everybody just falls to him.
Howie is a lucky guy in the draft who's just very, very skillful at the cap.
Yeah. Well, I guess it is partly luck, isn't it, as well?
So talking of trades, Ash, next one at 25 was the Houston Texans. They traded out with the New York Giants for 34.99 and a 2026 third. So not the Earth. They moved up 9 picks and gave up a third and a third to do it, which it was not terrible, especially when you get the 5th-year option. And they selected Jackson Dart, and I mean, I think RG3 had a great take on this. He said, the New York Giants have no idea what they're doing. They signed Jameis Winston only to sign Russell Wilson, only to draft a rookie quarterback who's not going to play next year. It's an interesting ploy by the New York Giants.
It's interesting, but I can see the logic of it. So they did say that Russell Wilson will build their starter coming into this year, but he's only here for a year. Jackson Dart, as much as I'm relatively high on him. The system he played at Ole Miss, as we've profiled many a time, is very gimmicky to say the least. So someone obviously is looking for day 2 for the Lions in Trey Harris. Basically, all screens, goes, all that kind of stuff. It's a very gimmicky offense. Letting him sit for a year, let the end sort of mature, let him learn the system, kind of thing, is probably the best thing for him, except for, the head coach is on the hot seat, so he might not even be the head coach next season. It might be a totally new system. The New York Giants have turned into the Chicago Bears, people. What the hell?
See, the big thing I take umbrage with here is if you're going to do the development quarterback, that's fine, but the quarterback you're developing has to... If you're going to give him a mentor, you need a guy who's similar to him. Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart are not similar quarterbacks, like at all in the way that they play. It sounds like, but Shadeur's more of a fit there in terms of, yes, they do like to pass the ball more. They do have some rushing ability to them, although they don't stand and deliver on that. They like to use their arm instead. They do have a cannon of an arm when they want to as well. Like, it's just, if you're getting a quarterback to learn from, Shadeur would have been the perfect quarterback to learn from Russell, not Dart. So you're going to go through this year with one quarterback and then switch to next year with a different style quarterback, and then your whole offense is going to have to change again, and all the timings and everything going to have to change. I just don't get that. You want a smooth succession plan with a similar type of QB. And again, we said with the Giants, you don't give a new QB to a guy on a hot seat and a GM. Like, that's what the Bears do, as Ash said. So, one, it's not the same type of QB, which is wrong. And 2, it's just the wrong time for them to do it. You did well with your first pick, and now you've ballsed it up by doing this.
Next up was another trade, a worse trade by any stretch of the imagination. The Falcons moved from 46 to 26 to select James Pierce Jr., edge player from Tennessee. Full trade terms, Falcons received 26 and 101 in this draft. and they give up 46, 242, and a 2026 first round pick. So a first this year for a first next year, and they get a late third comp pick, but they had to give up a second rounder and a seventh rounder as well as next year's first to do it. According to ESPN, the capital they gave up for James Pearce was more than the capital they used for Jalen Walker earlier in the draft, which is insane when you think about it, especially with the value that they have for Jalen Walker. Just aside from Pearce, what the fuck?
You split this into two. So Pierce, the player and the pick, I really like for them. Like again, when you've had such a garbage pass rush for nearly half a decade now, you need to put efforts in. And he is the proverbial, if you hit on him, you're getting a true Edge 1 franchise guy, who's going to be absolutely wonderful for a decade. I can understand the reasoning behind going after him, especially in the later rounds where some of the best edges have gone. So that part is fine. The trade, on the other hand, is just, what are you doing? That's a first round pick next year as well. And you're trying to build that thing. I don't think you're on the verge of being a competitor just yet. I don't think you're close enough to competing for a Super Bowl to make a move like this. I think you need those picks to carry on building out your roster. So trade's awful. Player fit I really like, but overall it's a disaster for him.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm saying this with the utmost respect to James Pearce. I'm kind of happy he went off the board before I pick, because I can see the fallout happening if he was there and we passed on him. It would split the fan base a bit. I know, obviously, it probably split the panel a bit, because I know, Ant, you really liked him. Me, I was a bit more cautious because of the whole character reports. I didn't know what to make of it, so I tried to stay away from that. So I'm kind of glad, they did kind of take him off the board, because it's not our issue. It's out of our hands, and we don't have to worry about it. But yet also, just too much giving up for him. Come on. We all thought that kind of stuff you give up, you're doing for a QB. You're paying QB tax. That was just too much.
Maybe one of the steals of the draft next up, Baltimore just stick where they are at 27 and take Malachi Starks, safety, Georgia. Being a top 10 player basically throughout this process. Yes, he's a safety, so he's going to fall, and he didn't have the best year in 2024. Even though he was a first-team All-American. We know exactly what Malachi Starks is, given what happened last year with Brian Branch. Baltimore, just so frustrating. They're like Philly light in just managing to sit where they are and get value, but they're able to do that because when they draft so late every single year, because they're always in the late 20s, and they can just see what happens in front of them and just hold their nerve. It's nothing more like with Howie and with Baltimore, that they just hold their nerve when other people don't. And Starks is an incredibly talented player.
Starts in a nickel for them day one, puts Marlon Humphrey back on the outside, and suddenly that corner room looks very, very nice for them. I know I wasn't so high Nate Wiggins, but suddenly him Marlon Humphrey starting on the outside, Starks and then nickel play. They'll still play your free safety sets that they love, and then you've got TJ Tampa learning behind as well. So then when Marlon Humphrey eventually hangs it up, you just let TJ Tampa in at the outside and you're still sorted. It's such a masterful stroke from them. And as you say, they do it time and time again. Did it a couple of years ago with Carl Hamilton. They did it. They just seemingly do this. And hopefully we can turn into that. I know obviously we probably never will, because Brad will always get the itchy fingers and want to trade up for his guys. But the Ravens are one of the teams that we need to model ourselves on, and you can see why.
And I can already see it now. They're picking one pick before us today. And, they look at that defensive line next. And I can just see some form of edge falling to them and then nicking in one spot before us. They nicked Travis Jones one spot before us. Baltimore are getting ready to replace the Cardinals again. I know they're going to do something to really piss me off today. But like I said, it's just really good. This gives them so much flexibility in that secondary now. Obviously, you can move Hamilton around if you want to play Washington a little more as well. You can do all sorts here. Malachi Starks will, he'll be a Pro Bowler, knocking on all pro territory by the time he gets his first senior contract. So, it's a great pick for them. You cannot complain at that at all.
I'll gloss over the Lions pick. We talked about Tyreek Williams in detail just before this. At 29, Washington took Josh Connolly, tackle, Oregon. Some people think he'll go inside. Some people will think he'll stay outside. Two-year starter for Oregon. High floor player. Does he have the ceiling, I think, is the question mark for Connolly.
I really like it. I know obviously they traded for Larry Tunsil. Connolly will slide in at that right tackle spot. Brandon Coleman, who obviously they took last year in the third round, could then slide into guard when maybe he's a better fit. That's a pretty damn good offensive line. At least it gives them some holdover while Sam Cosby's recovering from his ACL tear, unfortunately suffered against us. But they needed to protect Jalen Daniels. They need to give him the best protection to prevent the sophomore slump. This is how you do it. You just kind of let the tackle fall to you and you get it. I really like it for them, especially since they are one of those teams that runs more your sort of zoney kind of concepts, which Connolly's more of a fit for than our kind of gap scheme. So fair play to them. They've made a really damn good pick here. Maybe they could have gone edge, Wade on Doran Armstrong, but kind of glad they didn't, because that means one could maybe fall to us in the second. We can trade up for one. Please. Donovan, don't let him go to Baltimore like we're referring to. Please don't.
I was surprised here. I thought they would be a defensive pick. They need an edge rusher. They need secondary. You've still got Will Harris as your starting strong safety. And you had Nick Amon-Ware there. You still had Trey Amos there because they need a corner as well. I'm actually glad, they want to protect Jalen and stuff like that. But that Commanders defense is kind of what make them so dangerous. And I think they missed a trick by not going defense here. So I will take that pick. I will take that pick from them. For me, they're not as strong as they could have been afterwards.
At 30, Buffalo took Maxwell Hairston, cornerback, Kentucky. I mean, when you're signing Tre'Davious White to potentially be a starter, this feels like something that you kind of need to do. 48 in the 40. What do you think? This is a very interesting pick, I think.
I thought it was going to be a receiver. I did. But, with Kerry Liam not working, they did need another corner. Just not the one I thought it would be. But I'm so glad Luther Burden didn't go there. Like, I hate Josh Allen enough as it is. Like, Josh Allen with Luther Burden just would have been... I can hear Tony Romo's, pleasuring voice over it all already. So, I was surprised they went corner, but I hope Hairston does well there. I do like Maxwell.
Yeah, as we referred to earlier, right position, perhaps wrong pick. Trey Amos was the better one. Though, considering what Brad said in his presser yesterday, it might have actually been Tyreek, supposedly. He did not want to go below the Bills because interior defensive line is a need for them. I know they've got Daquan Jones next to Ed Oliver. There's not a lot behind him. Like, I like Dwayne Carter, their pick from third round last year out of Duke. That would have been an upgrade for them. So maybe, they did have to pivot to their next player on their board, and it turned out to be Hairston, but it's a good pick for them. It probably will work out. It probably will never be the kind of reach the heights that Trey White ever reached for them way, way back, but he'll sort out that secondary, especially when they're going up against now a protected Drake May. He'll be able to throw the ball. You're going up against Tua until he gets another concussion. They've got an explosive offense. It's the right kind of pick. Yeah, just maybe Trey Amos instead of Maxwell Hairston, and it would have been a slightly higher grade.
An ultimate pick of the first round saw Philly trade up for the cost of a 4th or 5th round pick, I think it was, to move up one spot with KC and take Jihad Campbell, linebacker, Alabama. He fell a reasonably long way from where we thought he might go. I mean, he's not going to get beyond Tampa Bay, but he did. And somehow Harry Roseman has one of the better defensive players in the whole draft.
Yeah, I'm so annoyed. Like, we know I love that guy. I loved Campbell. And it just upgrades their defense. They lost Josh Sweat. Suddenly now they've got that chance now to play Zach Bourne on the edge, potentially him. You've got Nolan Smith who's there. You've got Jalix Hunt, who they took in the third round last year. They signed Elise Ojolari from the Giants on a short-term deal. They've got so much edge talent there now, and that means they can just day two. If a defensive tackle they like falls to them, they can take that. If they maybe a corner they like falls to them, they can upgrade on Keely Ringo. If there's a guard that falls to them, they'll probably just plug him in right at right guard and they'll be laughing all the way to the bank. They're one of them. I know they traded up one spot to get him just to guarantee they got him potentially, because they could maybe see a team trading up to 31 with Casey to maybe snipe him from them. They did the right kind of thing, going up, even if it was one spot, for a minimal cost to make sure they got their guy. And that defense just keeps ticking over.
And the final pick of the first round, Kansas City dropped back one spot and took Josh Simmons, tackle, Ohio State. Had a fantastic half of a year last year where a lot of people were projecting that he would have been an incredibly productive player all the way through that season, but didn't play the hardest schedule through that time. A lot of people are saying, well, but we still believe in him. And also apparently character concerns saw him fall here. But Kansas City, I mean, they got wrecked up front in the Super Bowl. So they did what Kansas City do, which is try and immediately fix the problem with a big investment. And if it works out, this could be a home run pick. But I have my doubts.
Yeah. Well, they've got Jalen Moore. He can play his 300 snaps while Josh Simmons beds into the system, and then they can slot him right in there. You're right. It's a reactionary pick in the best kind of way, in that they're trying to fix the problem like they did after the Super Bowl against the Bucks. Simmons, while he was the penciled-in pick, yeah, there's the whole thing. He's coming off the injury, bit of character concerns about work effort, and then also the fact that in his years before that at San Diego State, he wasn't exactly the best. So is it kind of, to steal one of your idioms, Matt, is it kind of, well, we've seen you do it before, we're bet on you doing it again kind of thing? Or is he going to return more to form and this in a couple of years looks like a really bad pick?
I'm intrigued by their scouting system. Like, for interior offensive line, they knock it out the park every single time. Joe Tooney, Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, love it. When it comes to tackles, I feel like they tried Kingsley last year. They've gotten Simmons this year. They've brought in Jalen Moore for a lot of money, considering he's not played a lot of football. It's just weird how they're so good at identifying the interior guys, and they struggle so much with the tackles. Like, it's just odd to me. I don't think it's a good pick for them. I mean, long term it might be, but I don't know. I just see the scouting system completely different there. They're so good at one thing and so bang average at another.
All right. That was round one of the NFL draft. We've slightly overrun, but I still want to get very briefly to day two. We had a couple of questions from Tom Winter. Who's your ideal second round pick for the Detroit Lions at 60 or otherwise?
Jaden Higgins, if he somehow lasts there.
Yeah.
I would love Jaden at that point. That's who I would love, so we're definitely not getting him. So, enjoy that one. Outside of that, you're going to be looking at like they love Oladejo, they love Josiah Stewart. If they move into a 4, expect that hybrid to be on the board today. And maybe safety. I think Makuba might be in play today. I'm like Andrew Makuba, I'm secretly looking forward to see whether they like him enough to draft him or not. So, but yeah, I would love Jaden Higgins if he drops. And with so much talent potentially falling out the first round, he could get caught in a mire. And there's still guys like Luther Burden out there and whatnot who could push the wide receivers down just far enough to get him.
Same kind of position, different player. Eilika Manuel, the Stanford ex, we have all the connections with him. Obviously, with him getting recruited by David Shaw as our passing game coordinator, we've spent scouts to Stanford games multiple times this season. He fits a long-term need. He's got the athleticism we kind of want from that position. Perfect pick at 60, and obviously at 102, it will be Ashton Charlotte, the edge from Louisville, and I will have to do 5 shots. But that's what I'm hoping for. Yeah, but yeah, I'm excited to see where Higgins lands, where Makuba lands, if Kevin Winston Jr., his rise turns out to be true and he goes in a second. Also excited to see where Nicky Mamori falls, because as we've said, I'm not the highest on him. I see him as the next Obi Melafonu. I see him as the Shamar Stewart at the safety position. I want to see if he actually goes somewhere that can use his talent, or is he going to go somewhere that's going to be like, oh, you were stick you at free safety because you're fast enough. Let's see what happens. And then he busts.
I'm really intrigued as to where the quarterbacks fall now. I feel like one of Milrow or Shador is going. Ooh.
Yeah, I agree. There are 4 edges in our top 14 available players. So even if there's a little run on them, there might still be one available in the next 10 picks or so. Can we trade up into the early 40s to get the 4th of those guys or 3rd of those guys? And that could be Izaraku, it could be Scouton, it could be Landon Jackson. I kind of don't care. Get one. Or if you want to stick at 60 and take Tate Ratledge, I would not hate
That's
that.
a shout.
There's lots of different ways to go here that I'd be quite pleased with. The longer this draft goes on, the more people that are available that I like. So
I
see
would
what
freely
happens.
dispose of Aaron Glenn's second comp pick next year. Like, let's start using that bad boy. Let's use that sucker. Let's use future picks to go up if we want to do that. I don't care if we don't have this pick next year. That'll get you up at least to 50, potentially, if you're going to use that alone. Because I don't really want to lose 103 and 130. Like, I would like to keep those two very much. So use futures if you've got to do that, and then do it that way.
Yeah.
Whacking the 7th is little sweeteners as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. Whacking one of the 7s, future 3rd, 60, sorry. See how high you can get up and work from there.
All right.
So, yeah.
So let's talk fallers then. So Will Johnson, we've had a question on this chronic knee problem, which he apparently has, is clearly impacting his value. We've seen other players with potentially really bad injuries. I'm thinking of
Jock.
Jock was the first one who came to mind, and he went in the middle of round 2, I think, when he was drafted by the Browns. So, is that sort of area maybe we were looking for Will Johnson? I kind of don't expect him to come off the board straight away now.
I mean, the Browns have 2 picks in the first 3 there. They need a corner opposite Denzel Burke. That could potentially... Denzel Ward, sorry. Denzel Burke is in this draft. Because you think the Browns might shop one of those picks as well, potentially. Like 33 and 36, if there's people desperate to come up and get that talent that's come out of day 1 or 2. I think there's a good chance Will Johnson could end up in Cleveland, which he would hate. It's just odd because until this injury this year, he's been relatively healthy in college and he's played a lot of football. So it's just odd how it's come to the fore now. But
I could see the Dolphins trading up for him in a second. They're currently picking 48th, but they've got 98, 116, 135, 150, 155, 224, 231, 253. He would be the perfect scheme fit for them, and obviously they're Ramsey is out is the way he's stored with him falling out with McDaniel. There's their replacement for him.
Other fallers, Mike Green falls out of the first round after he could have potentially been a top 10 pick. It feels clear that there's a lot of teams that might have taken him off the board. How far do you expect him to fall now?
Who, sorry?
Mike Green.
I think he'll go... It depends, because like you said, there's still 4 edge rushers there who could have been in the conversation for the first, so it depends when the run happens. Like, do the QBs go first? Then when Warrior go, do you get 6 or 7 picks into the second round and they're all still there? I don't think it'll be far. I think people will be a lot happier to go after him today. The injured corners, Revel and Morrison, how far do they go with their respective injuries? You know what? I'm not going to lie, and this is the real. This would be the real hornet's nest one. If Carson Schlesinger continues to fall in our direction, and we don't want to pay our team captain next year because of financial constraints, yes, it wouldn't be very nice. But Jack Campbell and Carson Schlesinger as my linebackers for the next 10 years.
You said it. You said it.
I look. You have to. These are scenarios because I think we're all agreeing the Tyleek pick is Reader's replacement next year. We ain't going to pay DJ Reader next year, so obviously future cap is on his mind as well. I would want Anzalone to stay, but if he did drop to 60, then you've got to be in that mindset of like, well, fate has given me an opportunity here.
it is one of many options I could take. So, but I don't expect Carson to stay on the board long. But if he does fall, it's ridiculous at this point.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
agree.
Mike
And
Green Mike
sorry.
Green 37 to the Las Vegas Raiders. They need an edge opposite Crosby.
Well, when do the Cowboys next pick? Ooh, when do the Cowboys next pick?
44, but as our Cowboys fan quite rightly pointed out yesterday, they are starting to act upon red flags in the correct way. Instead of seeing them as plus points, they're actually seeing them like drop down the boards because of it.
All right, final one. Shadur Sanders. I kind of have a sneaking suspicion now. I was thinking I would go in the first couple of picks. I'm wondering whether he's going to have a fall. Whether, he might end up going back end of round 2 or early round 3 now.
I think with that trade, it is acceptable for Cleveland to take him now.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you can do is you're picking again at 36. So depending on what you want to do with Travis, if you want to play him at wide receiver or corner, you can then take one of the top corners off the board. Hell, if Trey Amos falls to 36, you come away with Shadur Sanders, Trey Amos, and Mason Graham. Sorry, shit, they'll need a receiver because they ain't got Travis Hunter. My bad, I apologize. You could take one of the top receivers off the board. You could take Luther Burden. I know Matt Miller's mock today had them taking Shadur and Jaden Higgins, which I would despise. But how would that work for them? Shadur Sanders, Jaden Higgins, Mason Graham. Then all of a sudden, you've given yourself a chance this year to make a little bit of noise as well. So, or take Shadur and take Eronte Ursary. Start fixing that old offensive line, which, Brett talked about.
Or to really throw the cats amongst the pigeons, take Shadur at 33, 36, Travion Henderson.
Yeah, take a running back. This is what I mean. This trade has now opened up the field so much for Cleveland. And hell, if they don't want any there, trade 36 because someone wants the talent. Get a few more picks and build your roster backwards that way. This is why I love the trade so much for Cleveland. It has just completely opened up their day 2 and what they're capable of, and they're in prime position to go get the quarterback now. It's their pick if they want to, and then the board's at their mercy.
Yeah. Right, we're going to draw it to a close there. Thank you for listening to our Draft Day 1 recap show. We're going to be back live at 5:30 Eastern Time, that's 10:30 PM UK time, with 8 fantastic guests who are going to be repping for the Eagles, Bears, Ravens, Saints, Packers, Jets, Steelers, and a special guest, Oliver Hodgkinson from Pro Football Network, to break this all down. We will all be there. I hope you will be there as well. Thanks on behalf of Ash and Anne and myself. We'll see you later. Let's go Lions, one pride.
One pride.
Recording stopped.